it's this BMW wheel assembly that we mounted and dismounted. And the process begins with, on an aluminum wheel, we have to select a cone from here that best fits the radius on the back side of the rim. This front hole here isn't necessarily concentric to the wheel. This is for a trim cap. So you're always best to try to find a cone that fits back here, and the proper fit is going to require this opening to be centered on a cone. So we could probably go either way with this, but I think I like this one, the smaller version, a little better. So we'll use that. Now I'm going to put the tire on the spindle. If this was a very heavy tire wheel assembly, I could toggle this lever here. I could put the tire in this cradle, toggle this lever, and then slide the assembly over, which is going to grab one of these cones, and usually there's some rubber rings around here we put on here to prevent scratching the face of the wheel. I have to make sure the wheel is up on the cone, and proceed to tighten this. In order to ensure this is tight, I step on this pedal and that locks the spindle, and I give it a little extra. Because this is a low profile rim that does not give me a lip to put a wheel weight, I'm going to have to put weights on the inside of the wheel assembly. I have to make sure my machine is set up for that. And I have the option to put weights on the outer edge. I have the option to put a weight on the outer edge and the inside, or stick on weights on the inside. And in this case, we're going to go with stick-ons on the inside. The machine has to find out what is the size of this tire wheel assembly, and as soon as I grab this inner arm, it's giving me a picture of where it wants me to put it, and I'm putting it right where the weight would go on the inside. I step on the pedal, and now it's prompting me to put it where the weight goes to the front of the rim. Step on the pedal, and I have the option to try to hide the weights behind the spokes. I choose not to do that. So I will put the arm back in its position, and it must be in its rested position in order to function properly. Now I have the option to use road force with Straight Track, which is a Hunter program that selects the best position for this tire on the car, but seeing how we're only balancing one car, we're going to skip that, and we will use road force. So right now I am getting ready to balance, but unfortunately when I road force, I have to be mindful of the fact that I have different limits for different types of tires. This is a passenger tire. If it was an SUV or an LT, what it does is it raises the threshold a little bit for the heavier vehicles. So right now, the threshold on a passenger tire is 20 pounds. I pull the hood down, and it right away is going to prompt me to properly inflate the tire. I don't know what the tire pressure, the proper inflation is for this wheel assembly. I would look in the door jamb of the vehicle, or in this case, I would look on the front of the tire because I don't have the vehicle, and it would say somewhere in here, it would give me a spec for maximum inflation pressure right here, and it says 50 PSI. I don't want to inflate it to 50 PSI. I want to leave some room for expansion, but I'll go up to 44 because I can go about 15% down of its maximum inflated pressure. And I have to put the airline up, and I'll let the machine do its inflation, and it will either inflate or deflate as required. Now it says I'm good to go. So the next step is to pull the hood down. And road force on this machine is basically a drum that comes in and it simulates, the pressure it's simulating is the weight of the vehicle on the road, and it is deflecting the sidewall the way it would normally be deflected as the tire rolls with the weight of the road, the weight of the vehicle on it as it's hitting the road. And what it's telling me is it has detected excessive force inside the tire. Now, when tires are built, the plies are seamed, tread plies are seamed, sidewall plies are seamed. If that seam isn't hidden well inside the tire, as it rolls, it would hit a rigid spot, and as it is deflecting due to the weight of the vehicle, that rigid spot would create a bumping effect. So it's telling me that that is outside of the tolerable limit. And I do have some options. What I can do about that is I can come up here, I can either cancel or I can hit measure rim run out. And what I'm doing now is the machine's gonna prompt me to use these sizing tools as a measuring device. And I'm going to look for what would be a low spot in the rim to mount the rigid spot of the tire in the low spot of the rim to try to counter the effect as much as possible of the rigidity in the tire. But on this wheel, it's a little bit difficult to do that. And I hit this button to get the process started, and it rolls it. So because it was moving on the face of the rim, I'm going to have to do that again. And the idea is to try to do it where the tire seats on the rim, but in this case, it's about the best I can do. Okay, so that time it did work, and let's look at what it's telling me. It's telling me that the rigid spot of the tire is right here, or in this case, right at the laser, and it's telling me there is a low spot on the rim and it's saying if I move the rigid spot of the tire to the low spot of the rim, that the assembly should come into 20 pounds, which would be right within its spec. So now I bring it up and I mark the rim. And then what I would do is I would break the tire down and I would rotate the tire on the rim, line those up, and it's going to predict me to be at 20 pounds, which is right at the threshold. So assuming I do that or not, I can still balance the tire. So in this case, it's telling me I don't need any weight on the inside of the rim, but I need 1.5 ounces on the outside. So all I got to do is touch the number. It brings the assembly down to where it needs the weight. I'm going to grab some of my stick-on weights. I'm going to center the weights right in at the laser. Then I'm going to respin the assembly. And this time I'm going to shut the road force off. And my assembly is balanced.